axle. Here's the waltz jump. An axle has 1.5 rotations instead of that little tiny half rotation I did. So B stands for baby blues, which is the third dance a skater learns. And the other thing I think B stands for that is really important is to bend your knees. So when a skater first skates, they often kind of skate with straight legs and bent forward in the back. What we want to have is bent knees and the shoulders over top of the hips and skating on top of our feet. C is for camel spin, which is that spin with your leg up in the air. Looks like your body is in a capital T position. The other thing C can stand for is the canasta tango dance. It's the second dance that a skater learns, and it has a chasse in it. Chasse is stretch, up, stretch. So that is stretch, up, stretch. That's a chasse on the canasta. Okay. D stands for Dutch waltz dance. This is the first dance that a skater learns. It has swing rolls in it, which are similar to edges. Have to watch the end of the ice here. And skaters are also introduced to progressives, which is stretch, stretch, stretch. These steps are in the Dutch waltz. Now we're on to E. E can stand for European dance, and that is full of 3 turns. And we can also have spread eagles. And spread eagles, I can do an inside one. I'm not sure I can do an outside one. But it's 1 foot going forward and 1 foot going backwards for a spread eagle. You can do a beautiful outside one as well. And E stands for edges. Edges we do a lot of work on in skating. And what we want to do is get outside edges developed and inside edges developed. And this really improves the skating. Okay. F, there's lots of F things in skating. There's the 14 step, there's foxtrot, and the fiesta. And a fiesta has a neat little cross step that is new. You cross it over and slide. Do that again. Cross it over and slide. So that's one of the earlier dances to do. In free skate, there's the flip jump. This ice is a little tight for doing that. So I'll show you a half flip. A whole flip would have a full rotation, landing backwards like the waltz jump. Okay, for G, that's a tricky one. I'm thinking being graceful on the ice and being great. So we could skate around just kind of this way. So much. To be a graceful or great skater, you want those arms up close to where the shoulder height is, and you want to stretch. Okay, so for the letter H, a big one. I wasn't very good at this when I was a young skater. I still have to be aware of it. H is for head up. So if we skate around like this, not that exciting. But if we have our head up, then people can see your beautiful face. You add a smile. That's important in skating. Letter I can stand for ice, as John just pointed out. You kind of need that for skating. And what it can also represent is an Ina Bauer. That starts with an I. It's kind of like a spread eagle, except one foot is behind the other one. I'll try to show that here. Okay, so one foot is behind the other foot. I'll try to push a little harder. So that's an Ina Bauer. Okay, stands for jump. That we do a lot of the time in skating when we get into figure skating. So we have a jump called the bunny hop that they now call a power jump. So that one, it kind of is like a scissor kick in the air. There's a power jump. We also have a rotating power jump, which is what you had seen already, which is just a waltz jump. We couldn't come up with a word for K, so I decided to come up with another C word instead. So how about counter? Now, we know what a three-turn is, or some of the skaters know. It's a simple turn like that. So we stay on the same circle we started on. A counter goes to a new circle. So we're going into it one way and then curving the other way. So L, there is a jump called a Lutz. Again, I'll do a half Lutz given the size of the ice here. And the interesting part about a Lutz is you're going around one way, and then when you go to jump, you actually jump the other way. So it's got a very different feel to it. So we do this direction of just doing a half Lutz, and then we jump the other way. Their L jump is a loop jump. Our next letter is letter M, and this can stand for the mazurka jump. So first, what we can think of with a mazurka jump is just a sideways hop. So all we're doing is going sideways. A little hop off the toe and then forward. Now a mazurka has a little scissor action added to it. So hop, kick, forward. And that's the difference between a mazurka and a side hop. N stands for neat feet. And this is commonly listed on test papers to have more neat feet or to have nice neat feet. And this is kind of important. So in dance especially, here's feet that are not very neat. So see how I'm kind of wide stepping, my feet are far apart? Skaters often have a bit of that at the start when they're first learning. They want their feet wide. I do that in downhill skiing because I'm not very good at it. So neat feet is your feet are under you and you stretch and bring your feet together and stretch, bring your feet together. So I'll show you the difference. It just tidies it up. Stretch together, stretch together, stretch together. For O, we like to have a lot of outside edges. Now an outside edge, you're going around in a curve, making a relative circle or a half circle. And for an outside edge, you're actually picking up the foot that's on the outside. Okay, so that gives you a sense of what happens for an outside edge. So for the letter P, this can stand for progressive. Progressive is one of the first little steps you learn in the Dutch waltz, which was mentioned earlier. So stretch, stretch under, stretch. Okay? And our foot turns out first, then we tuck our foot under, and then we stretch out again. Q. to do. And it has a really neat step that actually has counts of 1/2 for the beats instead of full step beats. So I'll try to show you just one of the quick little wiggle step. That's what I call it. I don't know if it has a fancy name, but it's very, very quick. And you wiggle to it with half counts. So super fast. I'll try to show you just that part. I'm limited on. Okay, for R, my son suggested Roadrunner feet. However, I got thinking of what is a fancy turn called a rocker. It turns in the same direction as a 3-turn, except it goes up to the new circle. It goes kind of like this. Letter S can stand for spin. Coming out. It can also stand for salto. Have to be aware of where the edges are on this ice. And there's also a dance called the Silver Samba, which is a pretty high level, fast, and very fun dance. T can stand for a number of things. It can be for a tango, which is a very snappy dance. We have a few of those in skating. We also have 3 turns, which we covered before. It's just a simple turn. And it also has, in skating, a word called twizzle, which is kind of a combination of 3 turns. So that's a twizzle. It's a slow twizzle, but that gives you an idea. You continue to turn. U stands for up. When skaters start to learn their jumps that have a full rotation, often they get thinking they need to get around, and they'll get really reefing on those arms. But the real trick to do in getting a full rotation or even more rotations is actually jumping up and in. If you rotate hard into a jump, there's no way you're going to land it easily because you're just going to keep going around on your landing. So all we do is up and in. So the more you think up and in, the easier it is to get more rotation in a jump. Stands for the Viennese dance. It's a very high level gold dance as well. It has a couple of neat steps in it. One is called a run step. And what it is kind of like a progressive, but you're running in it. It's not hopping, but it's progressing forward. So that's all it is, but it's this little bit of running forward. And there's also this same step going backwards. And we also have lilt. I'll show you what the sense of lilt is. So most times in dance, you keep it very straight with your bent knees. In this particular case, you drop a shoulder and then you drop your other shoulder. So that's lilt, and that's in the Viennese as well. Okay, for the letter W, what comes to mind for me is wobble. So we practice edges a whole bunch in skating, and it's to reduce wobble and to have good flow. So here's perhaps a relatively wobbly skater. There isn't as much control. Now, what we want to do is have a nice solid edge and not to have any wobbles. And look like you could go on forever in the edge. Letter X, that's a tricky one. All I can think of is how to excel in skating. And there's a bunch of things. There's a lot of practice to be done. Working really hard, having the polish while you're skating, looking up, bending your knees, having flow and carriage, all those things to excel in skating. And I know that even starts with an E instead of an X, but it's the closest that I could think of. Why? There is a field move out there called a Y stand. Now, I'm highly not flexible, but the idea is you grab your foot and you reach it way up here. And then you skate along on one foot. You cover at least half the ice. It's kind of like a deviation from a spiral. So you're holding your leg way up here, and it's called a Y stand. That's a bit difficult. How about Z for zany? You have to get a little crazy and have some fun out on the ice. And my son mentioned, is there such a thing as a Z or Z step? Well, I don't know any Z steps, but we have had some recent changes so that we have things called steps now. So we have what's called a C step, because it kind of looks like a C. And then we also have an S step. Okay, so we also have an S step. Curve one way, and then we curve the other way onto a new edge.